Hi, I'm Mike with Comp3 Interactive, and today I'm going to teach you how to utilise mobile phones' Vibrate functions. And as a little bonus for Android devices, you can actually customise the length of the vibration. So let's just jump straight into it. As you can see, I've got a completely empty project here. So we'll just start by creating a new C# script and we'll call it Vibrator. We'll open that up in Visual Studio. There we go. Now we can get rid of our start and update functions. We won't be needing those. We won't be needing mono behavior because we're not attaching this to a game object, and we won't be needing system.collections or system.collections.generic. What we will need to do though is make this class static, as we want to be able to access it from anywhere within our project. Now this first bit's always the most difficult, and I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not going to pretend that I remember any of this. I have it written down on a piece of paper next to me, so just bear with me here. So we need a public static Android Java class that we'll call Unity Player, and that will be equal to a new Android Java class, and we'll get the company.unity3d.player.unity player. 1/3 of the way through. Next, public static Android Java object. This one we'll call current activity, and that will need to be set to the Unity player that we just created above dot get static Android Java object, and we need the current activity. And finally, one more public static Android Java object. This one is going to be called Vibrator, and that's going to be the current activity dot call Android Java object, and then we need to get the system service, and the service that we're going to try and access is the Vibrator. Whew. Good luck remembering all that. In reality, we only actually want to access the Unity player, current activity and the Vibrator functions if we are 1, outside of the Unity editor, and 2, running from an Android device. So to do this we can use some compiler if statements. So we'll add if Unity Android, and we are not running on the Unity editor. That's the only time we'll actually access those variables, or else if we're running on anything else we still need to create them because we're going to reference them in our methods, but we won't populate them with anything. And just cap that off with endif. Perfect. So the first thing we're actually going to need to do is build ourselves a little function that will let us decide whether or not the script is being run from an Android device or not. That's very simple to do. We'll just create a public static bool. We'll call it isAndroid, and again we'll use our compiler if statements. So if Unity Android, we will then return true, else we will return false. As simple as that. Now we're well on our way. Now we can actually create the Vibrate function that can be called from anywhere else in your project. So to do that, we'll again create a public static void called Vibrate. This time we'll pass a long, which is actually the amount of milliseconds you want the vibration to go on for. Now, so we don't have to do an override for this, what we can do, we can default that to, say, 250 milliseconds. By giving the milliseconds a default value of 250, that means we can actually call Vibrate without passing a long value. If we pass a long value, we can actually specify the amount of time. If we don't, it will just default to 250 milliseconds, so a quarter of a second. So, how do we vibrate? Start with checking if we are actually running on an Android device. If we are, we can get a vibrator.call, find the vibrator function, and then we can pass it our milliseconds. It's as simple as that. Now, if we aren't running on an Android device, we still want to be able to vibrate, but unfortunately we can't give specific time commands. So to get around that, we can just do the simple handheld.vibrate. I can't remember exactly how long that vibrates for, but it is just a static. I think it may be 500 milliseconds, half a second that'll vibrate for. Now, just to finish off our vibrator class, we can create a public static void cancel. Now, if we check that we are running on Android, if we are, we can then do vibrator.call cancel. Sorry, that's cancel with a lowercase c. Be careful here, vibrate and cancel are actually case sensitive, as are the literal strings up in your declarations up here. One thing we did forget is we also need to make sure that we're not within the Unity editor to check if we are Android. So as you can see now, that's flipped over and that method will return false. So now we just need to test, make sure we have no compiler errors and everything works as we'd expect. So we can create a small little tester script, open this up in Visual Studio, and what we'll do is in the start method we'll just call vibrator.vibrate, and as you can see here, we're not passing in any parameters. That will default to the 250 millisecond default that we've given it in the class. But then again, we could also do vibrator.vibrate 1000, which then would vibrate the Android phone for a full 1 second. So let's just make sure that nothing that Unity doesn't complain about this. So we'll just attach the tester to our main camera for now, and when we run it we should see 2 iPhone references, and I'll tell you why they're iPhone in a second. Just make sure this works. There we go, iPhone util.vibrate. Now the reason it's actually accessing the iPhone and not Android utilities is in the vibrator class we've made sure that we're running on Android. If we're not, we're just running handheld.vibrate. So it's not ideal for testing in the editor, but if you were to export this and call those methods, you would in fact get the correct vibration lengths on Android. Now I'm going to leave that up to you. Obviously I can't compile it and then show you a vibration of me just holding the phone in my hand. So homework, write this, export your APK, put it on your phone, have a mess about with it. I know this is going to come in handy for people. So I've been Mike from Comp3 Interactive. Remember to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. That's comp3.interactive on both platforms. and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.